In this tutorial, we are going to understand the clearing content used in UI semantic default theming. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another new episode of Learning Simplified. Today in this tutorial, we are going to understand the clearing content used in UI semantic default theming. Now in our previous case, we have seen while creating our project using CSS only, we have used floating content. That means we had created a div element, a parent div element actually, and in that element we had created two or more child elements which we floated in an accordance to our project. Now we will see how super easy it is in UI semantic to create such floated and cleared content using some default UI semantic classes. Now in that respect, as usual, we will be creating a new container in this respect. There it goes. And here we will be creating a grid. Inside this grid, we will be creating a row in the first case, and then we'll be creating a column. There it goes. So everything is right now in its order. Now in the second case, if we mention that this individual UI grid, it is going to support 4 equal width columns, then we need to mention that as we had told you previously. So this is the UI 4 column grid. That means this entire grid will be divided into 4 columns. Now if we keep it up to this far and if we reload here, we won't be seeing any kind of changes here because we haven't mentioned any kind of background color or other CSS properties to display that particular container into our project. The next thing that we are going to do, we will be creating the columns. If we create 2 back-to-back columns here, and for each column we will be creating an individual button with a class, definitely with a class of UI fluid button. There it goes. And we will be naming the first button as 1 as usual, and in the next case we will be copying this button here and we will be creating the second column of this 4 column grid element. So we have created 2 columns inside a 4 column grid container. Now if we head back to our project and reload, we can see that this will be the obvious result, as we haven't utilized rest of the 2 columns of the specified 4 columns in that particular container. So all UI is going to do, it is going to place both the columns in the same direction without floating them. But now if we head back here, in this particular case, if we mention that this will be a left floated column and the immediate column below it, it will be using 2 back-to-back classes of right floated column. And if we now press Ctrl S, head back to our project and reload, now we can see that practically we are able to float both the columns into extreme directions. We had placed the first element 1 button into the extreme left position, whereas the other element, this 1 button, is practically positioned in the extreme right. So here we have created a floating condition using 2 definite classes in each of these columns. And now to distinguish it properly, we will be using a color class here. This is the left floated orange column and this will be blue column. Press Ctrl S, reload, and you can see that this will be the result In this particular case, we may use something else, like with this container, we may use the custom CSS selector here, this grid observer cells, which has this individual background with a margin top of 0 pixels. So if we now head back to our project and reload, this will be the result. Instead of 0 pixels, let's increase it a little to 10 pixels. Reload. I think another 10 pixels will be doing the trick. We just want to increase our margin top to display it properly into our project, and here it is. So we have created these two individual button elements, floating them into opposite directions. So these are the things that we can do. We can practically use floating classes in UI semantic default theming in an order to float our elements without further modification to it. If we now press Ctrl Shift M, we can see that this will be the result. Both of these buttons are practically situated into opposite directions. So in an order to make it more transparent, head back to text editor into this index.html, and here we may use this stackable class. All we are doing, we are just experimenting with the possibilities. So if we now head back to our project and reload, we can see that this will be the result. So for this lower mobile responsive display, both the elements, that means both these columns, will be stacked one above the other. But for this 768 pixels, there it goes, we can see that the floating condition turns on. The orange column is left floated and the blue column is right floated. Now before we finish up, the very basic thing that we would like to discuss here is about changing the font color of these individual button elements, those we have created so far. Let's head back to text editor, and here we will be using this red basic button, and in the next case we will be using this green basic button. Press Ctrl S, head back to your project and reload, and we can see that this will be the result. The button element is now changed. The background color of this individual left floating button, it practically has no background color. The background color is being transparent, and there is a red outline with a red text in it. Whereas in case of this blue button element, we can see that there is a green outline with a green text color into it. So hope you guys have liked this tutorial. If you guys have liked this quick tutorial, then do not hesitate to hit that red subscribe button immediately. Hope to see you guys in our next tutorial. Till then, bye.